And Mike, Jim Turner is with us in our studio now. He is the former offensive line coach, of the Miami Dolphins, fired in the wake of the Wells report and all of the bullying controversy that took place last year. Let's talk about the locker room and, I guess, by extension, those meeting rooms. I think there were a lot of people out there. Someone like Mike Golick wasn't surprised by some of the things that he heard about them. Many others across the country certainly were. How would you describe the difference between a pro football environment versus your average workplace in the area of language that is and isn't permittable and behavior that is and isn't permittable? I guess what I'm saying is, were you involved in things that at the time seemed normal to you that you can understand how someone on the outside might look at it and say, that's not the way people should be behaving in a professional place, in a place of business?
Right. Okay, and to answer your question, I think if you were to equate it to the workplace in America, I would equate the locker room more to a construction work site than to a corporate business sense, okay? You're dealing with guys. I mean, just look in your average locker room. These are tough guys. These are rough guys from rough backgrounds. And, you know, let's face it, okay? You're talking about modern-day gladiators. The game of football is basically gladiators out on a football field. People want to see them go out there on Sunday afternoon and bloody each other up, okay? They want to see them go out there and go and get after it. And then you want them to put a tie on and act like, you know, totally civil, during the weekdays. I don't know. It's to me, it's more like a construction work site. These guys are rough guys. They go to work every day with their hard hat and their hammer, and that's it. And when I look at the Dolphin locker room, the way I saw it, the way it was depicted was totally out of whack. Okay, there was no way that the head coach, myself, the coordinator, anybody could see any of that coming. That locker room, as far as locker rooms that I've seen and I've been around and things that I've heard, that locker room was a great locker room. A great locker room.
And is it run by the players?
Yeah, it's run by the players, but at the same time, the coaches, and you know this, Mike, your coaches are going to go in, they go in, it's your space as a player, but at the same time, the coaches go in and visit. So after practice, the coaches would walk in, you visit, you're in there maybe twice a day, 3 times a day, but you go in and you give it a little.
We're talking again to Jim Turner, former offensive line coach for the Miami Dolphins. Do you think in this day and age, though, things have to change, just as things we did years ago we don't do now in other cases? Do you think that has to be the case in locker rooms now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously because of the situation and what's happened, okay, with John Martin and all that, obviously there's going to be change, but I think the change is more pressure from the outside. The reality of life is, okay, when those guys put those uniforms on and they line up on the field, okay, the offensive lineman has to knock the defensive lineman off the football, and the defensive lineman has to knock the old lineman off the football, and so on. Okay, you're still dealing with rough guys. They're going to act in a rough manner. That's just the way it is.
Mike, Jim Turner is in our studio. Have you spoken to let's start with John Martin. Have you spoken to John Martin since you were fired?
No. John Martin would never return my phone call. The only time that I've ever spoken to John Martin was right afterwards when Richie was being attacked. So right after the deal, okay, and I'll give you what was stated between me and him. And the report, this is part of where the report attacked me. The report said that I didn't use good judgment because, I was trying to get a young man that had suicidal tendencies, and I was pressuring him. Okay, so I texted him right on that Saturday, about 5 days after he left the team. All of a sudden, he left the team. We played Cincinnati on a Thursday night. We won, and so the boys came in the next day, and I had them in the meeting room, and they read the text message that he wrote to Richie. Richie said, "Hey, it looks like John's doing all right." And I said, "Go ahead, read the text message." He read the text message. John said, "Congratulations to you guys," and all this other stuff. And then, of course, Saturday when I got up, everything was going wild, and Richie Incognito was, the worst guy in the world, okay? And so I text John because that's not the way, that wasn't my experience with any of those guys. So I text John, I said, "John," I tried to call him, but he wouldn't return my phone call. So I texted him, I said, "Richie Incognito's getting hammered on national TV. I said, this is not right. You could put an end to all the rumors with a simple statement." I said, "Do the right thing now." Because in my mind, an innocent man was being attacked. And he texted me right back. Immediately, he said, "Coach, I want to put out a statement. Believe me, I do. This thing has become such a huge story somehow, but I've been advised not to." And when you combine all the things that I just said about him emotionally and his text to his parents, and I look at that statement right there, I mean, I don't understand when I read that statement, but I've been advised not to. Somebody's advising you not to tell the truth? Obviously, he's saying, Coach, I want to put out a statement. Believe me, I do. This has become such a huge story. Like, even he knows this is not the story that was intended. This is not what really happened in Miami. And I believe that's what he's saying to me. And then, they said I was pressuring the kid. In the end, I said, John, I want the best for you and your health, but make a statement and take the heat off of Richie in the locker room. This isn't right. I tried to protect Richie. I tried to protect John. I tried to protect the whole locker room because everybody was getting beat on. And I just never understood how those investigators came in there, and it was those two and John Martin. I thought they were trying to find the facts of what happened in Miami. I thought they were trying to uncover what happened in Miami.